Welcome to episode 1433 of the Sleeper in the Bus. I am Justin Mason, joined by Jason Collette. How you doing, my friend?
All right, man. Good to see you again. It's been a while between our schedules that we haven't been able to do a Sunday. So it's awesome that we are together again.
Yeah, it's been way too long. I'm glad we're able to get back together again. And like I said on the Friday show, I don't have anything coming up on Sundays for the next couple months. So I should be able to record here every week.
Pinch hitting. Somebody's got to pinch hit for me next weekend because I do. Okay. I have one more thing. My daughter has she's attending journalism camp up in George Mason University, so I have to leave Sunday to drive her up and drop her off. It's cool because she wants to get into sports journalism and media.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right. I may know a few people. But she gets to go to camp, and I think she's working with the Washington Soccer Club for part of this. She gets to do part of stuff Capitol Hill for a day, so it's gonna be a fun experience. But I have to leave Sunday morning to drive her up to Fairfax.
Yeah, right in my neck of the woods, where I grew up. I grew up in Fairfax County and Washington D.C. So George Mason is definitely close to my heart. As a school that was very, very local to me growing up. So good for her. That should be a lot of fun. I will find someone to come fill in for the weekend next week because we'll have a fun episode where it won't be a ton of FAAB to talk about next weekend because it'll be right before the All-Star break, but there'll be some, and maybe we'll come up with a fun topic.
I don't recall, does NFBC still run FAAB on Sunday night right before the break? All right, because I know like my local, I know in Tout we don't run it until Wednesday. I believe it's the same for Labor, and one of my local leagues we also suspend it until a couple days before.
It's actually kind of an important FAAB weekend in the NFBC world and in other leagues because a lot of people will just take it off, knowing the All-Star break. They won't put in as many bids, and so you can actually get guys cheaper, especially if there's no major call-ups. So it'll be a lighter FAAB weekend, but it's an important one if you are in the NFBC world or if your leagues still run FAAB on that Sunday night, in spite of the fact there is no games until Friday the next week. So
sorry about the noise. I knocked something off on my desk. But the other piece of this, don't forget, if you're in a league that plays like you have to start the guy the week you pick him up. If you get him next weekend, you only got to worry about 3 days of a dead spot. So if you're trying to spec a call up like Sammy Basilio, if he ever comes up, if you're trying to spec a call up, next weekend's the time to do it because you're only carrying a dead spot for 3 days instead of a full week.
Yeah. Speaking of which, why don't we just jump right in? We'll start with where Sammy Basilio should be coming up, but he is not. Gary Sanchez going to the IL with a knee injury. They trade for Alex Jackson. Their catchers are now Alex Jackson and Jacob Stallings, who they picked up off of waivers after the Rockies job. They've lost 3 or 4 catchers here in the last month. It's been kind of unreal. At what point do they bring up Basilio? Is this a time where you would go and spec on him?
So when you look at the catchers, they've lost Rutschman, they've lost Maverick Hanley, they've lost Chadwick Trump, and now they've lost Gary Sanchez. I was talking with somebody on Blue Sky yesterday, looking like the Orioles should be trading Charlie Morton. I know the Orioles are playing better lately, but they dug themselves such a hole, and Charlie Morton has pitched fantastic since rejoining the rotation. And so I'm never good at trade valuations, but I said, look, if I'm asking the Cubs, I want Ben Brown and I want Miguel Amaya. And some Cubs fans were like, there's no way they'll ever do that deal. But it's like, I'm trying to leverage, if I'm the Orioles, I'm trying to leverage multiple teams and see who wants to pay up. And I mentioned this because somebody was like, why would they want Amaya? They got Basilio and they have Rutschman. Well, if you look at where Basilio has played in the minors, he's only caught 18 games. He's played first base and he's also DH. So to me, it's like, go ahead, just move him to first base and take that, because if you have Rutschman, one of those guys has got to move. You can't carry both those guys into catching. So it's like, to me, one of them's got to move off the position. And that's where I'm at. So I don't, if they're making a move for Alex Jackson, who's arguably one of the worst hitters I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot considering the catchers the Rays have had over the years. this is the move that they're making because they're just out of bodies, man. Most organizations, maybe it's kind of like a draft and hold. You draft 4 catchers and you hope that you hope that you can don't have enough injuries, but they've run out of catchers. If this was a draft and hold, they'd be starting injured guys the rest of the, for a while because they'd have no other options. But again, no organization's carrying this many catchers. And if they're making this move instead of calling Basilio, maybe they truly want him to stay in Norfolk and work on playing that first base.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because all 4 of the injured catchers are on the 40-man. And so there isn't like a lot of movement room he can make without DFAing one of them. So I would take a gamble on Basilio just because I think there is a really good chance he's up after the trade deadline. They have to move Ryan O'Hearn, I think, this deadline. So that could open up the spot for him, and he would be catcher eligible for the stretch run. But you may have to wait, like Jason said, like he's not really catching necessarily a ton.
Yeah, I wanted to look at his game. I just remember looking at the positions where he had played, and I can't tell by game log, but I was just looking at fielding, and this year, 15 games at first, 21 at catcher, and 19 at DH is where Basilio has played this year.
Yeah. All right. Next on the docket, Clarke Schmidt, done for the season. Next season. He's going to be getting Tommy John. This is a huge bummer. Would you be buying low on him in like a dynasty league? Obviously, he's a cut in all redraft formats.
I don't know. I mean, it's. I guess the lesson here is that again, nothing is with pitching injuries is consistent because you look at a guy that went from 57.2 to 159 to 85.1 to 75, 78.2, and so they had him as a starter. They controlled his stuff. His workload was controlled, and then his arm went. So it's just like everything goes all over the place with this. He has pitched over the last 2 years. He has pitched almost as much as he pitched in 2023 alone with that. So again, he's out the rest of this year. He's going to be out for the rest of next year. And I wonder if he comes back in the bullpen and doesn't go back to the rotation. Who knows what the Yankees look like in 2027.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want him in a dynasty either.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I think if he was on a different organization, I probably would be pretty interested in buying low on him and just stashing him on my IL. But with it being the Yankees, they may trade for a few guys or sign a few guys in 2026, and all of a sudden 2027 comes around, there's no spot for Clarke Schmidt. So
yeah, the terrible part about this is, remember, he's still in his ARB years and he's unrestricted free agent in 2028. So when he comes back in 2027, that's his time to shine.
Yeah,
and to try to do something with that. It would be unfortunate. Maybe he gets traded next year or something like that. But I'm just looking at his contract situation. He's ARB 3 this winter, ARB 4, and then he's a free agent after the 2027 season. So just terrible timing.
Yeah. Max Muncy, the Dodgers version, is out 6 weeks, I believe, with a knee injury. Are you holding on to him?
Not at this point. I mean, 6 weeks. And what we could talk about, I know it's a couple of clicks down the agenda, but let's just talk about this in this part. So we get so conditioned about first half and second half, the way they talk about the baseball season. But when play wraps up this time next week, we will be anywhere from 58 to 60% done with the season. And you look at the Dodgers, and the Dodgers only have 65 games left after the break. They are one of 5 teams that have the fewest. And Scott Simon, I'd said that for you if you're listening, because you edited me yesterday in the Sheehan forum. The fewest with that. So that's one of the things to consider. So if he's going to miss 6 weeks, this will be one of those weeks. The All-Star break will be another week. So then there's 4 more weeks after that. So that's about 30 games. That's about, little less than half of what the Dodgers have left to play. So for me, I would try to find another option and try to load up the stats rather than sit around and wait, because as you guys know, I don't believe the initial timelines. I just don't. 6 weeks could be 8. And then I've sat around and like, oh man, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I think a lot of it will depend on where the Dodgers are at in the playoff race right now, 8 games up in the division. If they've got a pretty good hammerlock in 6 weeks on this division, and that kind of first overall seed in the National League, you could see them really slow down that timeline and just make sure he's got a couple weeks to ramp up before the playoffs. So I think he is a drop in most formats. I'm not going to hold on to him, especially ones like NFBC where you don't have IL spots or you only have like 1 or 3 IL spots in shallower formats. I just don't think he's going to be worth holding on to kind of rest of the way. So it's unfortunate because he finally turned things around after getting glasses, but I think you're just going to have to kind of move on and go on to the next guy. Let's see. Shinisuke Akosawara recalled for the Nationals. I don't even know if I was close on that.
Shinosuke Ogasawara.
All right, I'll take your word on that. He was a Japanese. He's a Japanese import that the Nationals have. Any interest in him? He's really made a fast rise through the minor leagues, obviously, because he's not your typical prospect of sorts. 27 years old, a left-handed pitcher. He, I believe, is a starter.
Starting today against the Red Sox.
Okay, starting today. Any interest there? Like, he hasn't pitched fantastically, but it's also been only 24 innings.
Yeah, he was rehabbing from an oblique, so he got hurt early in the season. He's been rehabbing from oblique, and he is, here he comes. So we're going to see him play today, and I don't have any interest until I see him pitch. Because it was nice. Like, Sagano pitched well for the Orioles until he wasn't, and that's lately. Sagano's been getting blasted left and right lately as the league has adjusted to things. So I'll see him, but it would be one of these, let's see what's there. But if he's pitching today, that means maybe he gets one start next week. Perhaps he gets 2 weeks from now. So just watch list type of thing and see what happens.
Yeah. All right. And then we have Chad Patrick being sent down. Paul and I discussed this, on the Sleeper on the Bust. I can't remember if it was last week or this week or both potentially. But every year we see kind of younger pitchers, especially in their rookie year, get sent down to kind of conserve innings, sometimes to manipulate service time. Patrick becomes the first one sent down, and Brandon Woodruff will be making his debut for the first time since, I believe, 2023.
Yeah, so September 23rd, 2023 was the last time we've seen him pitch on a major league mound.
Yeah, so that's going to be really, really fun to watch. Are you picking up Woodruff anywhere, and are you holding on to Chad Patrick?
So with the other thing with Patrick, you mentioned innings manipulation, but sometimes it's just to keep them on a regular workload because it's like they can go down to AAA and they can make a start. So if Patrick goes down, I forget when his last start was, but he can get a chance to get 2 more outings here during the break type of situation. So I don't expect him to be sitting around doing nothing in Nashville with that. But that's where you look at the rest of it. What do? You're not sending, you got Peralta, the Miz, Quintana, and Priester. And Patrick is just, that was it. It was either the Miz or Priester, and you're not sending either of those guys down. And so this is what happened with it. So with Woodruff, I just want to, I want to see what the radar guns are saying. I need to see that he's pushing it. And I didn't see anything from the minor leagues. I didn't see any of the data to see where things are, but I need to see what the stuff looks like. Cause this has been a long layoff, man. This has been how long, people were drafting Brandon Woodruff last year, hoping he was going to come back, and they were drafting him this year, hoping he was going to be back before July 6th. But here we are. It's been, that's 21 months, just over 21 months since he's been out. That's a long time.
Yeah. And here's the thing. He has only gone more than 4 innings once since May 6th in the minor league. So I really want to see depth and see how far he can get into a game. I want to see the velocity, see how stuff moves. In deeper leagues, you're going to have to just take the gamble if you want Woodruff. And in some leagues, he's already been picked up. But in shallower leagues, I'm waiting. I'm putting him on my watch list. I don't know that I'm picking him up, especially for this start. I want to kind of see how things roll today and then make a decision tonight. So this is definitely a start you should be watching today if you're listening to this on Sunday. Joe Boyle finally recalled.
The Boyle rules. Yes.
Right. I mean, one of the top, or one of the things that people just keep asking me about in my chats are like, when is Joe Boyle coming up? When is Joe Boyle coming up? And he's finally here. I had no idea, the Rays kind of operate in their own way, so it's always hard to kind of predict what they're going to do. He has thrown 73 innings in AAA this year with a 185 ERA, and he's registered 96 strikeouts. Been really, really good. What are you expecting from Boyle? Is he going to be a big-time pickup for you today? And then are you worried about like maybe Rasmussen having some sort of innings limit?
Yeah, that's why I wanted to talk about this. So Boyle has thrown 78 innings this year between the one start, the one no-hit start that he made for 5 innings, and then the 73 in AAA. He has 103 strikeouts in 78 innings and has only allowed 6 home runs. The most important part is he's only walked 33 guys, which is huge considering he walked 40 last year in 47.2 innings with Oakland. So Tampa Bay is doing what they've done with some of these other projects in pitching and has gotten stuff out of him. The call-up today, I believe it's twofold. One, the bullpen's been hot garbage of the last 2 weeks, absolute hot garbage. And they have blown lead, the offense to get them leads, and then they blow it. I mean, no bigger than the whole 22-8 debacle, but the bullpen has sucked. And so now when I look at this, it comes down to Drew Rasmussen with innings work, because Drew Rasmussen, remember the Rays have a 2-year deal with him. This is the first of the 2-year deal, and they have a club option after this. He turns 30 next month, so it's worth their time to make sure that they're not putting too much into him. And so, he had 146 innings in 2022. And then he went 44 2/3. And he went 28 2 around the injury in the 23-24, and he's already up to 87.1 innings now. So to me, this could be like they're going to put him back. And you look at his last outing, he only went 52 pitches, and he was effective, but they pulled him at 52 pitches. And so to me, it's like they're going to start scheduling his workload, and maybe Rasmussen and Boyle become Boyle. And the two of them work together, and Boyle becomes a bulk guy behind Rasmussen opening the game. So it's just something to keep an eye on, because that's today. Rasmussen pitches today against Joe Ryan. Good matchup, but it could be Joe Boyle coming right behind Rasmussen by the 4th inning.
Yeah. I think
Rasmussen owners, that's the thing. It's like you got 7 wins, you've got great ratios, but he may be droppable here soon if this is the way they're going to use him.
They're like right in the thick of the playoff race right now. Like they're 3 games back in the division. Yeah. I think they're still tied for the last wild card spot here.
They've got to make some moves. I mean, they honestly have to do some things. And maybe Boyle's coming up for the bullpen, but it wouldn't surprise me, because the 2 outings ago, Rasmussen was 64 pitches, but he was laboring in that one. His last one, 52, and he looked really good. And all of a sudden he was out. There was concern like blisters, anything. No, it was just a matter of they're trying to manage things, because again, this is the first of a 3-year deal. This is a guy that's had 3 surgeries on his elbow, and they're invested in him. So they need to manage him. And this it's just something to watch. Because if he becomes a 3-inning guy, then it's like, how do you carry him in a mixed league if he's not going to qualify for a win? And he's not a big strikeout guy, so he's not getting you that. It would be a ratios only carry.
Yeah, that's fair. That'd be really, really disappointing. It's been such a tough year with pitching too. To have a guy like that get limited is going to be rough for people. I think Boyle is a priority pickup here. Someone people should be trying to go out and get. There's a ton of upside in the strikeouts. Like you mentioned, the walks have really been cut down. And he's rostered in every main event league. So in 15, in your more competitive 15 teamers, he's probably already rostered. But he will be around in a lot of 10s and 12s. So someone you should go look to pick up this week, especially if you need strikeouts, because that is a guy who could definitely deliver them.
And the walks will still be. I'm looking at his game log recently. 3 walks in 5 innings, 3 walks in 4 innings, 1 walk in 5 innings, 2 walks in 5 innings, 1 walk in 6. So like every now and then he's got bouts of issues with that, but he does have 6 walks in his last 9 innings, along with 15 strikeouts. So it's it is what it is. But the fact he is not the absolute wild mess that he was with Oakland. And so now that Kyle Schneider will get to work with him on a daily basis, it'll be interesting to see where Boyle moves on. I know a lot of people, I can't believe that he is still sitting on main event teams. That's kind of crazy considering he hasn't pitched at the major league level for a bit and people are still sitting on him.
Yeah, 100% rostered so far in the main event. I just went to go look. Because unfortunately for me, I have a lot of drops this week in my main event. with Schwellenbach, Tyler Mahle, Max Muncy, and Gary Sanchize all getting dropped.
That Mahle one really hurts too because he was pitching so well. And
I mean, for me, it's I want to think that I could go and look. Let's see. If I go and look at my draft, I don't know that I have a single starting pitcher on my team that. Oh no, I do. I have Christopher Sanchize and Drew Rasmussen, Jose Barrios. Okay, so I have a few guys who are still on my team. I think 4 guys still on my team from my initial draft. But it has been 4 pitchers from my initial draft. But it has been brutal this year in starting pitching. So
absolutely,
especially those of us who play kind of in the NFBC world where you can't hold on to guys. So
your draft and hold formats. I have the only team that I don't have that's in the top 3 right now is a draft and hold where I am 8th, and I'm down to 11 healthy pitchers. 11, and I drafted 24.
Yeah,
13 guys out.
I have a gladiator league where I'm pretty much stuck in second. I'm missing so many guys, and that's really the only reason why I'm not in first. Though my pitching's actually fairly good now that I'm looking at it. But one of my other leagues, it's like, Luis Heel, Jackson Jobe, Garrett Cole, like that league isn't catching back up. So that's unfortunate. So all right, let's talk about FAAB this week. Oh, actually, you wanted to talk about some of the remaining games or the remaining games after the break.
I did. I put together a sheet to show the most and the fewest games remaining. And again, I said this on Sirius XM yesterday. This is the type of year. By the way, yesterday was the last baseball show on Sirius XM for the rest of the season. Good job.
Yeah, pour one out.
Drives me nuts. Anyhow, with this, it's like people get so distracted with football right now, and we talk about this every year. Don't lose focus on this part of the baseball season. But one of the things I mentioned earlier, with the season being 58 to 60% over by the rest, by the All-Star break, the first and second half. If you think of it in halves, you're losing 10% of, we're that far along. And so I put a report together, and it's linked in the show notes. But the Jays, the Diamondbacks, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Giants all have the fewest amount of games remaining, while the Guardians, the Tigers, Atlanta, and the Rockies have the most. Now, this is not a I want to drop Bo Bichette for Ryan Ritter type of guidance. This is tiebreaker information. This is input. If you're looking to pick up somebody, if you're looking to make a trade here before your league trade deadline and the MLB trade deadline, look to see where you can find. I mean, that's 3 games. That's an extra 12 to 15 plate appearances for a full-time guy. That's potentially, 3 save opportunities for a closer. That's another start for a starting pitcher. But keep these things in mind as you're doing some evaluations on trades, on pickups and whatnot, because again, we are a lot further along in the season than you think we are. And just don't lose focus while you're paying attention to your football drafts. This is why I don't do football drafts literally until like the day before the season kickoffs. I wait as long as possible to do my drafts because I don't want the distraction. And literally I just go into the RotoWire tool, and that's how I draft. I just don't pay attention. I don't know the depth charts, and it's worked out well for me. Even in a league where there's I play in a pros versus Joe's league, and I am definitely a Joe in this audience, and I've still made the playoffs every year. So thanks for my RotoWire colleagues for helping me out, because I do not do anywhere near the draft prep for football that I do for baseball. But I don't allow football to distract me from this time of the season, especially now that I have 5 teams in contention. 5 of my 9 are in contention for first place. So I am fully focused on baseball right now. And that's why I pulled out that report yesterday morning looking at that.
Yeah, I don't pay as close of attention to football. I used to cover football for many years. I stopped covering football during the 2020 season. And I definitely still play fantasy football, but fantasy baseball is where I, obviously make my money in a number of ways. So I mostly just kind of do football on the side. But this is the time of year where people really stop paying attention to baseball, and there are a ton of games left. I actually may take this sheet that you made and add to it a little bit, and then use it for an article coming up. Here.
Add some home road splits, like do some things
that's
like that.
I think that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to add home road splits and kind of stuff like that to kind of, especially when you've got a team like the Rockies who are at the bottom of this list, the most, tied for the most remaining games. How many of those are in Colorado, right?
Right.
When you have a team like the Reds who are towards kind of the top of this list, which means the fewer remaining games, how many games are in Cincinnati? So those kind of things are going to be really interesting to look at, and a good way to kind of monitor how you want to approach the end game of the season here as we are moving into the second half after this week.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk some FAAB. We have some guys who have been hurt. We need to pick up guys to replace them. What about Jake Burger, who might be a good power source to replace Max Muncy in leagues where he's available? He has struggled this year, but still 10 home runs. Where are you at on Jake Burger right now?
So, last 30 days, I know we just, he's been called up recently, but It's like everything. He's got 2 home runs and still slugging the 369. One of the things when I was looking at Texas over the last 30 days, they're finally a league average offense. Finally, the last 30 days, their WRC plus is 101. They were one of the worst offenses in baseball heading into that, but you're starting to see like Evan Carter getting on base, running more. Marcus Semien is finally starting to hit. If your beggars can't be choosers, if you're trying to replace Max Muncy, and Burger may be a type that can get on a heater. We saw him do it this time last year in a Horse Park situation. So yes, but you just don't have a lot of options there at the hot corner. I don't know what you mentioned you've got to replace Muncy in a league, and I don't know what your options are at the hot corner, but Burger,
not many.
Yeah, it's third base is not a position you really want to replace this year.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton of options. Unfortunately, going and just looking at my options at third base, Brian Hayes has been on a heater. So Abraham Toro, who's been on heater. So actually, maybe not as bad as I thought, but those guys are definitely not replacing the power that I've lost with Max Muncy. Unfortunately, maybe like a Kobe Mayo. Try to see if I can catch him lightning in a bottle there. Has been.
How about Nolan Gorman?
Gorman, is he? I don't think is he third base eligible?
He's showing up on the fan. Did I mess that up? Yeah, primary position third base. I'm using the Fangraphs leaderboard last 30 days.
Not available.
Not available. All right, because he's got 6 home runs.
Yeah, so it's
by the way, the Max Muncy the younger has more home runs than Max Muncy the elder over the last 30.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Max Muncy the younger has been really, really hot, and obviously he benefits from that park in Sacramento. I don't think he is like a really big power hitter, but I think he does get a lot of advantage from that park in Sacramento. And if you look at like his splits, he's got more away home runs. Wow, that's actually surprising. The problem is like he just murders your batting average. I guess Max Muncy the elder does that as well sometimes, but
Max Muncy the elder was hitting 314, 443, 543 over the last month, and the younger 244, 305, 453 with a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah, I'm seeing Durbin as an option in the chat too. Unfortunately, not available in my main event league, but he'll be available in other leagues where you can kind of go and pick up. I think Burger is a guy that I would go pick up. He's very, very streaky, and at some point he's going to get hot and go on a tear. And so I think if you're looking for that kind of power replacement, there aren't very many guys on it, especially on a deeper wire, that you can pivot to. Muncy is a guy Burger is a guy I would pivot to if I had the option. Unfortunately for me, not available in my main event. I guess
McMahon hasn't been dropped either, right?
No, not in main events, but maybe in 10s and 12s.
Out 39% of the time, but he's still hitting home runs, and they have home games the rest of this week, and then they have 39 home games after the break.
Yeah,
so
39. Okay.
I went and looked it up while you were talking.
That's a good split.
Yeah.
So. All right. What about Royce Lewis, who's finally back from the IL? You're not going to get to use him for long, but if he's available, are you going to picking him up?
I've got to watch him play this weekend against the Rays as the Rays continue to blow these games, and he looks useful. He looks like the guy that we wanted to see when we drafted him, and not the mess that we've seen up to this point. So yes, I would go pick up Royce Lewis. He's looked better in just me watching these games, and he doesn't look completely lost timing wise at the plate. Hopefully he gets on one of the heaters he can do before things break down on him. If you want to over under who gets hurt first, Byron Buxton or Royce Lewis.
I mean,
I
think
you guys are yelling at your podcast device going, Jason, how dare you? But it's crazy for me to see Byron Buxton. He's finally having that breakout season at age 30 that we've been wanting forever from him.
Buxton has been absolutely insane, and you're just praying he doesn't get hurt at this point. But he's hitting 268, 333, 563 with 19 home runs and the 15 stolen bases. This is the most amount of stolen bases that Byron Buxton has had in a season since 2017.
Yep.
This is only the second time since that 2017 season where he's gotten to double-digit stolen bases in a year. Like, he's just absolutely been unreal, and you're just praying he stays healthy. As far as Royce Lewis goes, though, like, I really felt like Lewis was just getting really unlucky and then obviously getting hurt, which is just part of his profile. But I think this is a really, really good buy low and for the second half if you can. Obviously you're gonna just have to hope that he stays healthy, but the underlying numbers on Lewis have been absolutely fantastic, and he's just struggled with a 245 BABIP. But he's making, the best in-zone contact of his career. He's actually making the best swing decisions of his career, only swinging outside the zone 26% of the time. Swing and strike rate is down to 8.6%. And he still hits the ball hard. It's the highest hard hit rate of his career, the second highest barrel rate of his career, the second highest average exit velocity of his career. Like, I think everything's on line for Royce Lewis to have a massive second half. If he can stay on the field. And that's a big if, but if he's available in your league, you should be picking him up. He should be a priority pickup at the hot corner.
It'll finally happen.
I hope so. We'll see, though. Let's move over to kind of the middle infield, and we have Colson Montgomery, who this is an interesting one because he's a guy that people were really, really excited about coming up through the prospect ranks. His prospect status took a little bit of a hit, but he's now up with the White Sox. You got to assume he's going to be playing every single day kind of moving forward. A lot of upside here, but also a lot of downside as the guy has struggled to make contact. He had a 33% strikeout rate in the minor leagues this year, mostly in AAA, a little bit in the complex while he was rehabbing. But there is power, 11 home runs in AAA this year, 4 stolen bases between complex and AAA. Where are you at on Colson Montgomery?
Nowhere. I honestly, I've seen this guy way too much. AAA is in Charlotte. It's my backyard. I get to go to games. I have probably seen, 40, 50 plate appearances from this guy. And I've never walked away from the game going, wow, this guy is definitely, remember at one point he was a top 20 prospect.
Yeah.
I honestly never seen it. And understand Charlotte is one of the best hitting parks in the minors. It's definitely a AAA, but it is a very favorable hitting park. And the other piece of this is, normally we see teams like we were talking about Sammy Basayo earlier. I think I've pronounced his name 3 different ways in this podcast. Anyhow, but we've seen him, and we were making the point like the Baltimore refuses to bring him up. Well, it's like last year, they were contending. This year, they're not contending. I don't know what their excuse is other than maybe getting him ready for first base type of situation. But it's not like the White Sox have had anything in Montgomery's way. Anything. They have had the ability. They could have made room. And Montgomery has 814 plate appearances in AAA since last season. And he's hit 215, 319, 398 with 246 strikeouts in that time. So, like, he has struggled down in AAA, and I don't know if this is a matter of, okay, let's elevate him, and maybe he's frustrated about hanging out in AAA, but if he was going to be anything, he would have been up a while. We saw how aggressive the White Sox were with Chase Meidroth, who's now struggling, but we saw how aggressive they were with him, and Montgomery stayed in Charlotte, and now he's finally up. And good for him. He comes up and gets to play in Colorado right away, but that ends today. So now you got to pick him up. I don't want this guy on my roster because I have just never seen what the deal is with him. He's an athletic. He can run. He can play the field, but he's got to get on base.
Yeah, he's got power. Like there's plenty of power in the bat. We saw last year him hit 18 home runs in AAA with 8 stolen bases. The problem is the contact. He does not have a very good hit tool. He swings and misses too much. And that is usually a recipe for disaster when you have those issues already and you get moved up to the major leagues and have to see major league pitching. I think for me is his 15-team mix or deeper only as a, maybe you catch lightning in the bottle. He's going to get opportunity. And so he's going to play every day. He's going to have the chance to kind of accumulate stats, but it's a bad team. I don't even, where's he been batting his first? I'll go check that as I talk. Batted 4th or 5th yesterday and 7th on the first day. So, there's an opportunity for him to rack up a lot of stats in terms of playing every day and having some power in that bat, but there's a lot of risk. And so this isn't a guy that I would be going out and spending triple digits on. And I do think some people remember that prospect pedigree for Colson Montgomery and spend a ton of money today. I think that would be a mistake. If I get him for cheap in a deeper league where I really need some middle infield pop, I can understand it. But your batting average is something you're going to have to watch.
Yeah.
What about Zack Gelof? He's another guy who got power, got speed, going to be in that amazing park in Sacramento. But again, contact issues. Zack Gelof really, really struggles with making consistent contact at the major league level. He's never even had a zone contact above 76% in the majors. And remember, 80% is that line where you wonder if a guy is a major league hitter or not. He should be back up. Or no, he is back.
He came back up Friday.
He's officially back up as of Friday. He batted 8th in the lineup. Are you interested in Zack Gelof, who's, put together some decent seasons already in the majors?
Yeah. So with Gelof, he's eligible this weekend in some leagues. In a home 15-team league, I got him last weekend for $3 because I knew he was coming up this week, and Oakland was going to be at home starting this past Friday, and then they're home all week before the All-Star break. So I was trying to lean into that, and then whatever happens in the second half. So I was trying to lean in that. So I was able to get him cheap as a backup. I tried to get somebody else, I think Nick Gonzalez, and Gelof was a backup bid to that. So it worked out. Nice. What stands out to me, strikeouts have always been a problem at the major league level. But he, spent some time rehabbing, 58 plate appearances in AAA, and he had more walks and strikeouts. That's encouraging, but discouraging. 1 home run in 58 plate appearances. Remember, he's coming back not only off the Hammett injury, but a stress fracture in a rib. So he's had 2 upper half injuries, if we want to get hockey talk, 2 upper half injuries. Or upper body injuries that he's trying to play through. So, last year, 17 home runs, 25 stolen bases, the new home park. I'm willing to take the risk here, understanding that there just may not be enough here, and I can move on if it doesn't work out. But those are the factors that went into my decision on putting him as my second backup to somebody that was playing, even if it was going to be like he was going to miss the first period of this current week that we're in with that. But those were my factors in this. But I'm a little concerned that, with 2 upper body injuries, is he going to be able to take advantage of that power situation coming off that Hammett? A lot of people will assume that, Hammett, you can't do that. I've written an article previously and looked at it, and honestly, it's all over the place. There have been guys that have missed, like Jose Ramirez, missed 3 weeks from a Hammett injury and came back and raked better than he did before the injury. So, and he's inhuman at that point. He was inhuman. But I looked at it, and honestly, the range of outcomes is all over the place. So for every example you give me that this Hammett bothered this guy, I can give you another example that it didn't.
Yeah. I think if I'm okay in batting average, I'm taking the gamble here because you're getting his home park. We really haven't seen the Heat hit Sacramento yet in the way that it's going to at some point here in the very near future. And I know I've said that multiple times over the course of the summer, saying like it's going to get hot. It's going to get hot. It's just been a weird year in Northern California in terms of having a really mild summer. But I expect it to get hot and that ball to fly out of that park. and we know that Gelof has power. It's not a prodigious power, but it's power that plays, especially in a park like that, and he's got speed. He hit 17 home runs in 2024 when they were in Oakland and stole 25 bases. This could be a really huge boost for him. So I think I would take the gamble, especially my batting average is okay. But that batting average could be a problem. And I don't know how tied the A's are to him necessarily if he struggles. He definitely is a guy who go back down. This isn't the kind of A's team of old where they don't have other options. The A's have been, making it work. Obviously, they have Jacob Wilson, who's been an all-star at shortstop. But they have, Max Muncy, the younger, on this team. They also have Gio Urshela, who's been a pretty viable fill-in for them. Max Schumann, who's been decent as well. And did they move on from Luis Ortiz? Oh, no, he's on the IL. Okay.
He's on the IL. Yeah.
That's probably why.
That's one of the reasons Gelof was up.
Yeah, there we go. That makes sense. So, all right. Moving along, we have another middle infield option, Ha-Seong Kim. He's finally back. Kim is one of my favorite players. Missed the majority of the season rehabbing from injury. He is back. He's only played one game so far for the Rays. Where are you on Ha-Seong Kim? Where's he going to factor into this Rays team?
Yeah, so he played one game because he kind of came up with a calf cramp trying to steal third base in his first game back. So he had, I think, 3 or 4 plate appearances, had a hit, and then was part of a double steal and got thrown out. And it was like a call stands type of situation. I thought he was in with a swim move, but they said call stands. And I haven't seen, they have not put him on the IL yet. So that should be good news, that the fact that he will be looks like he just day to day with time. He is going to play. I mean, it comes at the expense of playing time for Jose Caballero, who's leading the league in steals, leading the AL in steals, despite not being an everyday player. And Taylor Walls, who has played phenomenal defense, is actually hitting better of late with that. So that's where the playing time is going to come at expense. And I would, the fact that they had Kim and Simpson in a double steal attempt tells you how aggressive that Kevin Cash is going to continue to be with the running game as he keeps the pedal to the metal with stuff. So the other piece of this is, don't forget, and I bring this up for those of you guys that play in AL League, Ha-Seong Kim's on a 2-year deal with a player option in the year 2. So he could decide, you know what, I'm going back to the NL after this season. So that remains to be seen, but don't forget that, particularly if you're in a mixed league, doesn't matter. With that, but don't forget that aspect. It's just an unusual contract where the player gets to say, maybe I'm out with this. But it's another reminder on timeline too, because when he was out, the expectation was he would be back around Memorial Day, and then he had a setback, and his first game was on July 4th. So it's like just a reminder: timelines are never what you want them to be.
Mm-hmm. They're always add time to timelines. I love Ha-Seong Kim. If his calf isn't a big issue, I think he's a priority pickup this week, and I think I'm taking the gamble that he's going to be good to go here, and especially if he needs stolen bases. I just think there's so much upside there, and when healthy, Ha-Seong Kim is a really, really good player that can add a lot to a fantasy team. So.
I'm encouraged he's playing shortstop too, because remember there was the talk was second base, like they were going to bring him back and have him play second base, but then Brandon Lowe's played so good, and so they couldn't make it, and so they wanted to, and that was part of the delay to get Kim back. Yeah, he had a setback, but they wanted to make sure he could make the throws from shortstop, and he debuted at shortstop.
There you go. So I'm definitely picking him up this week in leagues where he's available. I think other people should be as well. Let's move on out to the outfield, and we'll head back to Sacramento, where we've got Colby Thomas, who recently was called up. He's primarily going to be used as a pinch hitter against left-handers, which isn't really intriguing, but this is a prospect of note. I believe a top 100 prospect in some circles, but probably closer to a top 200 prospect. Is there going to be enough juice here with playing time?
I don't know. I mean, I drafted him in 2 different AL leagues. Like it was kind of a statistical chase. Like I'm looking back what Eric Longenhagen and the team had ranked. They had Thomas ranked 26th in the preseason prospect, 26th in the A's organization back then. So it wasn't like 26 overall. We're talking like 26th just in the athletics organization with him. But statistically, what was intriguing was last year in the minors, 31 home runs, 15 stolen bases. And this year he had 17 home runs and 7 stolen bases and was getting on base, hitting 297 down in Las Vegas. And he has not had the playing time so far. They did call him up, and he has 10 plate appearances this week. You saw that great throw that he made, selling out the throw out Brandon Lau at home plate. That was just a phenomenal play by him in that game. So he has tools, but at the same time, I don't know. This isn't a mixed league pickup. He's not playing enough as it is with the way the roster situation is shaking out, and it's really an AL only play for me. And I have him in 2 leagues, AL leagues.
And the problem this week is they don't face any lefties. And if he's primarily going to be used against lefties right now, they've got no lefties on the schedule coming up this week with Atlanta and Toronto, I believe, coming to town. I want to double check that.
Red hot Toronto too, man.
Yeah. So I just don't know that there's enough juice here. There is power and there is speed. And he is a good defender, but the hit tool has been really, really bad for Colby Thomas in the minor leagues. And so I need to see some improvement there. I also need to see where the playing time comes from, because that outfield doesn't have a lot of options with Soderstrom, Lawrence Butler, and Denzel Clarke, who Clarke isn't a great hitter, but man, is he amazing.
There's no way they're taking that glove out of the lineup. Just no way.
And the hitting has been better as of late. He had that massive home run the other night. And so I just don't see where the playing time comes from unless there's an injury for Colby Thomas to kind of make a difference.
It is tough. I mean, and Rooker's got DH completely clogged.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Soderstrom against righties and Thomas against lefties, and that's what it is. I mean, Thomas did play the left field, hit 7th and 8th against the Rays against righties on Tuesday and Wednesday, but it was more because Jacob Wilson was hurt.
Yeah.
And Gelof hadn't been up yet, so they had some roster flexibility that they no longer have.
And there's really no players on this offense that they're going to be looking to deal at the deadline. They locked in Rooker into a long-term deal, and everybody else on this team other than Rooker is 25 years old or younger. There's if they make trades off of this team, it's going to be depth pieces like Gio Urshela or Luis Ortiz, or it's going to be in the rotation, moving someone like, I know, Jeffrey Springs or JP Sears or something like that. I don't think that they're, or in the bullpen. It's not going to be for the offense.
After watching him pitch this week, I want JT Ginn. It's probably Ginn.
He's 26, though.
But it's you looked at his stuff out of the rotation's been terrible, but as a reliever, he's looked good. And just watching him, sitting down and watching him pitch the other day, I was like, this is unique stuff. And maybe they found something from him out of the pen. And I know he's allowed a lot of home runs this year, but 6 of those have come at home. He's been much better on the road, tougher to hit on the road. And coming out of the bullpen the other day, if you want to go back and watch, just go watch his outing. I'm curious to see if the A's do try to do something. It would be unusual for them not to do anything. Maybe they could trade. I don't know what they could get for some of these bench pieces, like an Urshela or something like that. But they really
probably
don't
not
have
much.
Yeah, they don't have, unless they decide, who's going to take Severino's contract. Nobody.
No one's taking. Yeah. I think Springs is the only one that I could see them moving at the deadline.
If I'm a team, I'm going to go call about JT Ginn, because that was intriguing. His Monday start, and he hasn't pitched since. That's the crazy part. He hasn't pitched yet the rest of the week, but I really liked what I saw in that outing.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is JT Ginn, he is still in his first year of service time. So they're not moving.
Reliever volatility. If somebody's doing something well, then move them.
I don't think they're moving him, but let's move over to Isaac Collins, who has actually played really, really well as of late. So far this season, he's got 207 plate appearances, 5 home runs, 8 stolen bases, hitting 263, 366, 406. I had him on my sell high list this week, just because the underlying numbers are not as glowing as the surface ones. Where are you at on Isaac Collins?
Yeah, I'm looking at the last 30, and it's 15% walk rate. Great. 16 runs scored. Awesome. 11 RBIs. He's getting some stuff done, hitting 310, 419, 507. I just can't get past the 413 batting average on balls in play.
Yeah.
I just can't. That's really tough too. And then if you figure, okay, regression comes, he's hitting 260, and then what with that? And so it's been fun in the moment, and he's played, defensively has looked really good too. And that's what's really kept him around for things. I just don't, I feel like I've missed it. I'm with you in hey, sell high opportunity, but he's put up the numbers in Nashville as well. And that'll happen with that. But I don't know how sustainable that is when you see somebody with 41% of their batted balls in play going for hits. That's a lot to ask for batted ball fortune.
Yeah, his X batting average is 236. His X slug is 348. Like, there really isn't a lot in the profile that makes me intrigued long term. And this is why I had him on my sell high list or article that I submitted to Fantasy Pros yesterday. Yeah. I think you've missed a lot of the goodness here. And so I'm probably going to skip. He's going to play every day because that defense has been good. And we know that the Brewers really value the defense. But Collins is one of those guys that I just think is a little bit of a guy who's just on a heater right now. And I don't think that he's going to be super valuable moving forward.
He didn't play Wednesday. He's not playing today against and both of those were against righties. So like today they have in left field, they've got Yelich playing left field instead of DHing. And they've got, your Sunday lineup, your Eric Haas, your Jake Bowers and Andrew Monasterio are in the lineup. So you got to get those bench guys some at bat to keep it fresh.
Let's talk about a hitter that is going to be a little bit more interesting. That's Jurickson Profar is back after serving a suspension. And he's, hitting home runs at least so far. In 8 games, he's got 2 home runs in 219. But he's going to be playing every day in Atlanta. Any interest in Profar?
Well, like if I was in a Muncy situation, you have the roster flexibility to try to do that. Yeah. He did have the 2 home runs in his first game back, but it's a timing issue. Like he has those, but he's also struck out. In some of these plate appearances looked rough against Charlie Morton when I was watching the game on got all these holidays going through my head on July 4th. So if I'm looking for a power play, it's just going to be a matter of timing, how consistent he can get his timing down with the 80 games missed for his suspension. But if I was looking for a power play to try to replace Muncy the next month and had the roster flexibility to move something around, then yes. I mean, I'd use him in a draft and hold. I had him in the aforementioned draft and hold. I put him in the lineup immediately.
Profar has been a pretty valuable player in fantasy. He's more of an accumulator type, where there's not going to be a ton of power or a ton of speed, but a good amount of everything. But the batting average is where he could really come through. Hit 280 last year in San Diego, and we know he's a really, really good in-zone hitter. Definitely going to have to get his timing down. He's been really, really aggressive so far, swing outside of the zone 41% of the time. It's only 8 games. I'm not worried about it for Profar. I think he is a priority pickup. In leagues where you need an outfielder, he should be available in a lot in 10s and 12s. Probably not available in as many 15s. So if you're in a deeper format, you're probably gonna have to look elsewhere. But he's gonna probably hit high up in this Braves lineup. Let's see where he's been hitting over the course of the last week. He's been hitting. He started off hitting leadoff prior to the suspension. Since he's returned in 4 games, he's hit 5th and 4th. So pretty good spot in what should be a much better lineup than it actually has been in Atlanta. And I know Paul and I said that quite a bit.
It's crazy to watch. I mean, I watched a couple of their outings this week. I watched the one against Morton, who just looked great. And then the one they had against Jose Soriano. And it was such a tough matchup for Atlanta because Jose Soriano just doesn't elevate the pit ball. He doesn't. It's so tough to hit home runs off him. And Atlanta was trying to swing like they were trying to hit home runs off of Soriano, and he was able to pitch very effectively against them. Mm-hmm. And just like you look at that lineup, and you can't blame it all on Michael Harris II, but he's down at the bottom of the lineup and still not doing anything down there. It's just crazy to look at, and they're walking, pitching around Ozuna at this point. I guess all the walks that Ozuna has. This lineup should be better than it is, and it's crazy that they are going into today. The Marlins have more wins than the Braves do.
What about Yoshida, who's returning this week? He should, according to the Boston manager, he's going to make his debut at some point during this homestand. Any interest there? This has been a guy who's been really valuable for fantasy at times, but has never really had a ton of consistency. He's dealt with injuries, can't really play the field, so he's only going to be UT eligible. Any interest in Yoshida?
Where is he going to put? I mean, so I look at this, and DH only is the only thing I could think of. I mean,
yeah,
he's only DH only to start with, but where he's not going to play in the field at all. But like, I'm looking at the lineup, like, what's the trickle down effect? Because right now, you're not moving Duran, you're not moving Rafaela, you're not moving Abreu as long as there's a righty on the mound. Those guys aren't coming out of the lineup, and so where does Alex Cora put? Roman Anthony's been DHing. He's DH'd 3 times this week. And when it hasn't been Roman Anthony DHing, it has been the last 2 games has been Rob Refschneider. And
that's fair.
Well, but Rob Refschneider's been coming off the bench and DHing, but then you put Yoshida at DH. Then where do you put Roman Anthony?
Well, I think you just give guys days off versus lefties, right? I mean, Wilyer Abreu doesn't play versus lefties, so maybe it's a platoon with Abreu.
But that would be another. I mean, Yoshida, I guess you just leave in, but it's going to impact. I'm thinking I'm not terribly interested in Yoshida. I'm just more interested in the trickle down effect of this lineup. Not that Roman Anthony's been doing that much, but if he's going to lose playing time, then his viability in mixed leagues starts, dropping off. And you mentioned Toro earlier. What happens there? David Hamilton's been playing.
I don't think Anthony I don't think Anthony's getting losing time. I think Anthony and Duran. I think this is a short side platoon kind of situation, which makes Yoshida not super interesting. They are facing Colorado with 2 lefties to start the week, and so maybe if short term stream against if he's in the lineup on Monday, that's another thing you got to kind of account for. But after that, after those first 2 games against lefties for Boston. There are no lefties on the docket rest of the week. They've got 1 more game versus Colorado, and then 4 games versus Tampa Bay, and no lefties on the docket for that Tampa Bay series. So I think that Yoshida's probably left for AL only, and even that, I don't even know if I'd spend money to pick him up this week.
It's lineup by committee, and this is really where it comes, and that's the frustrating part. There's a couple of guys you can absolutely count on. But like Trevor Story, as long as he's staying healthy, he's been very valuable. And Jarren Duran, and the rest of it's kind of like, depends on the depth of your league, which is not what you expected out of this lineup this season. But here we are.
Let's move over to the pitching side where we have Joey Cantillo, your boy, joining the rotation in Cleveland with the suspension of Luis Ortiz. We talked about him briefly on Friday, but wanted to bring him up as he's one of the names not on the 2-start list that might be widely picked up this week in deeper formats. Where are you at on Cantillo? I know he's been your boy in the past, but I don't know how deep he can go into a game.
Yeah, I actually, here's where I am with him. I dropped him in an AL league a week or 2 ago. It's like the thing about Cantillo that always frustrates me, he can get the strikeouts, but man, he cannot get out of his own way with the walks. And that's where it ultimately hurts him. Like, he's tough to hit. This season, 223 batting average, but a 139 whip, 41 strikeouts in 31 innings. But he just cannot get out of his own way. And he, like you said, deep into a game, what can he do? And so the fact that I dropped him in an AL league kind of tells you where I am with him. And that's it. I can't afford to carry that ratio risk. I want to believe in him, but at the major league level, his walks per 9 is still over 4. And his walk percentage is 10.6. That's just not going to play.
Well, why don't we go from one end of the spectrum on a young guy in Cantillo to an old guy who hasn't been very good. But in the Yankees rotation is Marcus Stroman right now, especially now with Clarke Schmidt done for the year. I think Stroman is in that rotation at least until the trade deadline. Any interest in Stroman?
No, I'd rather have Cantillo than Stroman, honestly. I mean, it's just like strikeouts. Stroman just doesn't get them. And he still allows the home runs. No, I know he had one decent outing around it, but Stroman just doesn't miss enough bats for me to be interested in him, at least with Cantillo. He'd walk guys, but he can also get strikeouts. And at the end of the day, I can't carry a guy who has a strikeout rate below. I mean, his strikeout rate currently is below 5. That's nuts.
Yeah. His strikeout rate is lower than his walk rate right now, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
It's close.
It's close. It's
close.
Oh no, it's close. 13.5 strikeout percentage, 11.2 walk rate. So
Wow.
it may have flipped here. All right. Let's talk about some relievers. Not a lot of starters to talk about this week, unfortunately, because everybody is hurt. What about Ronny Henriquez, who's been really good in that Miami bullpen? The problem is Miami hasn't been a team that has really just stuck with a guy. Is Henriquez a guy you think they will stick with? He's gotten 2 saves in the last week, but unfortunately, Lake Bacher got a save, though Henriquez got a win yesterday. So it may just, I didn't watch that game, so I don't know exactly how that all panned out. It may have been tied in the 9th when Henriquez came in. Are you picking up Ronny Henriquez?
So part of his current value is because the Marlins have been on a big heater, and you have to ask yourself, do you expect the Marlins to stay on a big heater? And the answer has to be no. Yeah. And so it's like you as we were talking earlier about Isaac. Why am I Collins? As we were talking, you missed the goodness, and you missed 2 saves and a win from Henriquez this year, and you may not get that the rest. You may not get that the rest of July. He may not get 2 saves or a win, but he had 3 decisions that moved the needle for folks. And he's out of options, so he's going to stay up there. But as you said, they used Bacher for the save yesterday. They've used Fauché for a save. They've had other guys with saves. So, to me, you may have missed the goodness. I wouldn't expect him to go on like that Tanner Scott crazy run that happened a couple of years ago where I think he won you a league. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. But Miami's been on a heater, and that's not sustainable. And once they come back down to where we know their true talent level is, then this becomes problematic.
Yeah,
but meantime, enjoy it and enjoy Agustin Ramirez. I have him on 3 teams myself, and that's been fun.
Henriquez is the best arm in this bullpen, and I could see him just holding down the role the rest of the way. But we go back over remaining games to be played, and the Marlins have 66. Are they getting 10 saves maybe rest of the way out of that 66 games?
Yeah, I would put the under on him getting 8 saves the rest of the way.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because if they do end up splitting it around again, which they've done off and on throughout the season, he may get 6 saves. And so I think really outside of deep 15 team leagues and NL only, this isn't really as interesting. Speaking of a team that's really bad, not going to win a lot of games, but they may have found themselves a new closer, and that's the Chicago White Sox, who have Grant Taylor, who has been really, really good. But again, this is another one of these situations where the White Sox don't necessarily stick with a single guy. I've seen Taylor come in the 6th inning. I've seen him, obviously close out games. He got a save on Friday. Where are you at on Grant Taylor? Do you think he's the guy, or is this going to be another one of these situations that just annoys fantasy owners?
I think it's going to be another situation that kind of annoys, but I just remember, it's good that he's up pitching, because I remember having some text exchanges with Nick Pollock in the offseason. He's like, you got to watch this guy pitch during spring trading. And so he would send me a couple notes. Have you watched? That's why I was looking at my phone to try to find the recovery, but he was like, you got to watch this guy pitch. You got to watch this guy pitch. And the strikeouts, the stuff, it's just, you got to honestly go watch him pitch. It's fun, but with the White Sox, anything is possible. And again, they're on a kind of a little bit of heater right now, but this weekend they've been playing the Rockies, so that always helps with situation. But we'll see what they look like after the trade deadline, because they have some pieces they could potentially move, like in Tauchman, and I forget what Benintendi's contract situation is like, but it's
I think they still have Benintendi for a
couple more years.
Yeah.
So it's like Tauchman feels like somebody they absolutely should trade. But other than that, I don't know what else. Savali, if he can do anything, and that's kind of it. They don't really have. This is the team that they're going to have with this. So Taylor was one of those talented arms that we knew was going to be coming up out of the system, along with Shane Smith, along with Noah Schultz, and Noah Schultz take a little bit of a step back this year from performance-wise, but Taylor and Smith are getting it done.
Yeah, they have Benintendi through 2027.
Oh.
So I don't
contract.
know. Yeah, I don't know that they're going to be trading him unless they're eating some of that deal.
Luis Robert Jr. too. I think those are I think those are team options after this season. So that seems to be the easiest one to trade.
Yeah, but are they really going to trade him at this point in his value? I think they need to wait and see if they can kind of recoup some value on Luis Robert, because right now it's only name value, and someone might pay for that, but they're not going to pay a ton for that.
Yeah.
So and he's currently Luis Robert Jr. on the IL. As far as Grant Taylor goes, I think he's a really, really interesting arm, but I also think that the White Sox have shown they're not necessarily going to go with a standard guy in the ninth inning, and so that makes it really, really difficult, because this is another one of those teams like, hey, like maybe they get 10 saves rest of the way, but if he only gets 5 or 6 of them, like how interesting is that on a team like the White Sox, where it's going to be really, really hard to predict when those saves are going to come.
Yeah, it's tough because like every week you look at, like, even let's say you had Henriquez and you were looking at it and somebody had a good start, like Ryan Nelson won yesterday. And I know, like, I put Ryan Nelson in one of my lineups this week and I sat somebody else, and that person also had good, but it's because I was carrying a third reliever, hoping for some output that I haven't received yet this week. And so, like, I lost Charlie Morton's good start on Friday because I was trying to chase some saves that just haven't come through. If your team slumps, even if it's a good team, like Pete Fairbanks hadn't had a save opportunity. I think he's had 3 save opportunities in 2 weeks, 2 and 3 weeks. And it's just because either the games have been blowouts or he's come in and tie games.
Yeah. So I think I'm probably just staying away from it outside of AL only, or we're really, really deep 15-team mix. All right, that's going to wrap us up for this episode. Jason, want to remind everybody where you can reach on social media, plug anything you got going on.
Yeah, find me at Blue Sky. Collect calls at RotoWire. I also want to make a book plug. While I was in this break that we had, when I went to Baltimore with some friends and to join the Joe Sheehan community to watch the Angels, happened to go to the Babe Ruth Museum and ran into an author talk by John W. Miller, who wrote the book The Last Manager, about Earl Weaver. And I just finished the book yesterday, and it's great. It's a great read. I learned a lot about Earl Weaver. I would encourage you to go to Baseball Reference, look at his playing statistical pages. You'll be in for some surprises there. And managerial wise, he was way ahead of his time, but the book was excellent. You can get it. I did the audiobook format through my local library with it, and listened to it walking the dogs this week and whatnot. But it's an excellent book and highly recommend it. And there's going to be a link to a YouTube video clip that John did with he lives in Pittsburgh, and he did a local interview with the news station in Pittsburgh back in April. But it's a great book if you're looking for a read. It's during the All-Star break when you got nothing, no games to watch. Highly recommend that book.
Yeah, I'll be just not doing anything. I mean, I still have to write a little bit during the All-Star break, but for the most part, I just take it off and enjoy spending a little bit of time with my family before the stretch run.
Yeah, I'll be in Northern Virginia all week because I'm going to be working remotely up there. Taking Monday off to drop my daughter off at the camp, but I'll just be up in Northern Virginia. My cousin and her family live in Bristow. I always say Bristow instead of Bristol because there's 2 different parts of the state, but I'll be in Bristow all week.
There you go. You can read all my stuff on Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros. Hear me on this podcast and the Friends of Fantasy Benefits podcast, which has restarted as well. And you can catch me on all social media platforms, Justin Mason, FWFB. For Jason and myself, thank you for listening. Have a fantastic baseball season.
Thanks, guys.